Okay, in the rubric for the case study, there are points allocated to prioritizing your list of issues, and really this is probably one of them, or the most important part. So you've done an awful lot of information gathering with your A, B, C, D, E, and your motivations and barriers to change. And what you might find is that now that you've gathered this information, there are loads of things wrong with this athlete that you could improve on. But what you need to do is make sure that the goals that you choose are in order of most important, and then that they're aligned with what the athlete wants as well. Motivational interviewing, we need to find interventions that our athlete is on board with. So, is body composition a priority for this athlete? Quite often it is. It's something that athletes tend to focus on. Either they want to gain lean mass or lose body fat. But does that align? If they want to lose body fat, but you've identified that they're completely under fueling, which is more important there, or how can you get around that? There might need to be a discussion had. Is energy balance. So if we're looking from estimated energy requirements, and they meet their macros, their micros, if they're not meeting their vitamin C requirement, that's probably not as important as if they're 1,000 calories under their energy requirement. So a rising tide raises all boats. If we increase their energy, naturally the others will improve as well. If they're not meeting the protein requirement, is that because they're just not meeting their total energy requirements, or is it because there's too much fat, energy coming from fat, and we need to move around the macronutrients? But really, check that energy balance, please. Are there health issues? Do we have a history of anemia and there's low iron intake? Is that then affecting their athletic performance? Calcium is another important one for young athletes that they might not be aware of, but you might put it in as one of your prioritized lists. Probably not the highest. Normally the highest is driven by our athlete, but it might be maybe the third goal on the list. Because you need to use, so it's this lovely balance between having the athlete or the client drive their goals, but also you are the expert. You do need to use your expertise to identify and help them identify issues that they may not have been aware of, such as maybe insufficient calcium intake in young athletes. Diet quality. So it might just be that they're not eating enough fiber, fruit and veg, omega-3s, some of those fundamentals. Again, making sure that your goals are client-led, but informed by your own expertise as the expert in sport nutrition, sport science. Is the major goal performance enhancement? Then yes, it would be completely appropriate to prescribe ergogenic supplements, whether that is a sports drink at halftime, caffeine gums, creatine, beta-alanine, sodium bicarb. So that can be a completely appropriate tool or intervention, but make sure that it's appropriately prioritized. If my athlete is 1,000 calories under fueling, then you know what, taking creatine probably isn't going to be the top of my list of issues. If my athlete is 10 kilos overweight, then again, taking creatine probably isn't going to be top of my list. It could still be on my intervention, could be the third thing on my intervention, but if we were to look at those two interventions and say my athlete's 10 kilos overweight, is losing weight going to be more effective at improving their performance or taking creatine? And I'm pretty confident that if they're 10 kilos over the appropriate weight for their sport, losing weight is going to improve their performance more significantly than adding in creatine. So it's about that prioritization. It's really important. It's difficult. Might take a little bit of time. You need to make sure that you've gathered all the information So that is why we really need to work on the ABCDE and make sure that that's solid, and the motivations and barriers for your athlete before you can prioritize this list of issues. So remember, again, we're looking for the balance between our client-led and you as the expert, your own expertise. What I don't like to see is maybe a practitioner who is completely client-led and doesn't acknowledge their own expertise. If it's completely client-led, but you've identified this massive gap in their calcium intake, for example, then why do you have your expertise? What's the value of them? So you do need to apply your expertise, but you don't want to force. It's not that you're picking all of their goals either. So it's just this subtle but important balance.